All right, so this is page 2 or the back of your review, second video. Joe Bean regularly takes a shortcut across Mr. Wilson's lawn instead of walking on the sidewalk on his way home from school. How much distance is saved by Joe cutting across the lawn? So notice it's not just asking for the length of this line here across the yard. You actually have to know how much you save. So just as a little aside first, if he walked the sidewalk, he would do 30 feet across, 12 feet up, 42 feet total walking. Let's keep that in mind. Now, as far as what the shortcut length is, we would have to do Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to do 12 squared plus 30 squared equals c squared. All right, you have 144 plus 900, that's 1,044. If you try to square root that, I do not believe that you get a whole number, right? Because we're going to have to square root that for c squared. Now, in this case, because we're looking for a distance saved, it is okay to use the decimal because that's not going to necessarily be our final answer. All right, so I get 32.311. So then you're going to subtract that. 42 minus 32.311. This one problem, it'll be okay, obviously, to have the decimal. He will save about 689 feet. Okay? So Pythagorean theorem is the main idea here, but since they want the word problem of how much you save, this is the total walking across and up, 42. The 32.311 is the hypotenuse. Subtract them to find the difference. Okay, that's what we're doing there. 10, find the length of the hypotenuse. Again, straight Pythagorean theorem. So 28 squared plus 45 squared equals c squared. 28 squared is 784. 45 squared is 2,025. When you add those up, you get 2,809. Now, big number, don't freak out yet. Let's see if we can square root that. Square root of 2,809. Look at that. Before you start freaking out, I can't break that down. Try square rooting it. I just did on the calculator, and it's simply 53. No more work to be done. Number 11, find the length of AC. I know yours says AB. We need to clarify that, and I should have done that in class. AC would be this here, the plastic pipe. Now, again, you have two options if you understand what you're looking at. It's a Pythagorean theorem if you want. 4 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared, where this is c. But also, because these two lengths are congruent, that is a 45, 45, 90, and you have x square root of 2. So again, it just depends on what you know and are more comfortable with. If you do this here, you're going to get 32 because it's 16 plus 16. It breaks up into 16 times 2, and that's 4 square root of 2, which is the answer for the plastic pipe. However, if you know the formula, since x is 4, because that's 4 feet, it would also literally just tell you to do 4 times the square root of 2, right? Because x is 4, you put it in there. So either one works, just depends on what you know and what you're comfortable with. All right, now this is a little bit of a tricky problem. In the figure below, what is the length of ML in centimeters? If you look at K, you do not know that's a right triangle. It's not a right angle there. So we cannot just automatically go, oh, 35 squared plus 100 squared gives you LM. We're going to have to do two smaller problems of Pythagorean theorem, and we're going to have to individually find ln and individually find mn and combine those, right? Because if I erase this here real quick, this is a right triangle, and that's a right triangle. And you have two sides for both, all right? So it's not Pythagorean theorem for the whole big thing. It's two little versions, all right? So we'll do here We'll call that A. We'll call that B. All right? On the left side here, number 1, we're going to do A squared plus 28 squared equals 35 squared. You're going to have to subtract 35 squared minus 28 squared is 441. I don't believe that square roots to a perfect number, but check. Oh, I was wrong. It does. You square root that, A is 21. So that little piece is 21. Then you come over here for B, and we have 28 squared plus B squared equals 100 squared. So 28 squared, again, you're going to have to subtract here, 100 squared minus 28 squared, right? You're going to have B squared equals 100 squared minus 28 squared. And that's going to give you 9,216. Again, seems like a huge number. Try square rooting it. 9,216. 96. So ML is 96 plus 21, which is 117 centimeters. Again, I know this entire thing is about right triangles, but if you don't see that right angle, don't jump to Pythagorean theorem. Good chance a similar problem will be on the test. All right, over to 13. Find the area of the triangle. I gave you the area formula right there. What we're missing here, obviously, is the height. This didn't copy the right way. It is supposed to be marked that these are congruent, so if it's not on there, know it now, and the rest of the classes that I did after this, I'll try to make sure they understand that. So it would break up, of course, into 16 and 16, and then that makes finding H a little bit easier, either through, well, no, you have to do Pythagorean theorem because we don't know it's a special right at the moment. So to find H, we're going to do 16 squared plus H squared equals 20 squared. And 20 squared minus 16 squared. Again, you're going to subtract because you're missing the A or B value. 20 squared minus 16 squared is 144. Square root that, H is 12. So this is 12. So as far as the area, it's either 1/2 times the base times the height, or some of you do base times height divided by 2. It does the same thing. It's 1/2 times the base of 32 times the height of 12. Or if you do 32 times 12 and divide that by 2. And that is 192 feet. Squared, something we haven't talked about, but you should remember area squared. All right, find the length of EC in rectangle ABCD. I know this looks kind of confusing, but the key is that it's a rectangle. And if it's a rectangle, that tells you that this side and this side would have to be congruent, as would this side and this side. All right, so if you look here, you have a right triangle that is 5 squared plus B squared, whatever we'll call this B, equals 13 squared. So again, it's a subtraction one. You're going to get 169. That's 13 squared minus 25. Again, it happens to be 144. You square root that, B is 12. Also means it's 12 down here. Now look, you have a 20 right there. All right? You have 12, 20. If this is a rectangle, this is a right triangle, you can do 12 squared, we'll call it B again. If you want to call it something different, that's fine. Squared equals 20 squared. That's going to be 400 minus 144. And 400 minus 144 is 256. Square root, b is 16. By the way, if anyone's like, oh, look, 13, 20, this would have to be 16 in Pythagorean theorem, just like I said in an earlier problem, this is not a right triangle, so Pythagorean theorem does not necessarily apply. So 13 squared plus 20 squared probably not going to give you 16, or actually 16 plus 5, because EC is 16, but 16 and 5, 21. But again, not a right triangle there, so just be aware for those of you that like to go a little further on the problem. I'm going to erase that for a second. Number 15, find end. So didn't do a lot of these problems, but you are going to have some geometric mean on there, so make sure you know how to do these. This is the geometric mean of these two lengths. So you're going to get n over 6, 9 over n. N squared equals 54. Break down 54, you have 2 and 27, 3 and 9, or 3 and 3. So, numbers you started with. See, sometimes the numbers you started with are what you break it back down into. So you're going to get the square root of 9 times the square root of 6, which is 3 square root of 6. Last one, how tall is the building? So don't forget, first of all, how tall is the building? You're looking for this whole thing. There's already this 5 here. You need to find BD. Now, it's another geometric mean problem like you just did, but there's not a variable here. This, the 15, is the geometric mean between this piece and this. So you're going to have 5 and x. So 5x equals 15 times 15. Which is what, 225? Yeah. Divide that by 5, and x is 45. But 45 plus 5, the building is 50 feet tall. Hope those videos help. Be ready for the test tomorrow. 16 questions, part multiple choice, part free response. Thanks.